Hello and welcome to CS230. This is lecture 22 and it's lesson 2. And we're going to move on now by showing how we might set up those views that we saw in the last lesson, where we had a nice table of results. It was a template that was populated with data extracted from our database using the RESTful API. I did tell you that we used Handlebars in conjunction with Express in order to make this happen. And so this is all about view handling and using the view template. Of course, we also style that using Bootstrap, and but now we need to make that happen. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to create a view subdirectory in our quotations app root. I will go to create a single view file called quotations_view.hbs. We can call it anything you like, but it makes sense to have it related to the collection that we're actually going to work with. So that's just going to be a HTML template. And we'll see that in the next lesson. We're also going to map assets directory that we normally use with the template engines onto our public folder, and that public folder already exists. And then we're going to let ExpressJS know that we're going to be using Handlebars as the view engine. And we set up the paths to the directories and all that stuff. And so we need to update our server.js file to accomplish this. And this really, the updates to the RESTful API are then wrapped in some comments there, so you can see what they are. I use user interface additions there just to show how that works. How we can find them in the actual code, say here, for example. Okay, so the server.js file is pretty much the same as it was previously. We'll see that we add in this module, and we're also going to use the path module. Okay, those are just 2 additions. And a little bit later in the file, just after the body parser section, we're going to set the view. They're going to be in this directory views, and we're going to use the current path, for the app from there. That's why we needed a path module a little bit earlier. We're going to tell Express that the view engine is HPS. We're going to tell it that the assets are in the public directory, and we'll create this directory, assets, this virtual directory, as far as the app is concerned. And that's it, right? There were 5 lines of code to update the server. No further changes. Okay. Now, one thing that we looked at previously is that we had an ExpressJS root for our root directory. Sorry, we have the roots and we have the root. And so all that did previously was just return a list of JSON records. So now we're going to actually hijack that root in a way. So we're going to use the root in conjunction with the view template to render the JSON as a HTML formatted table, the one that we've seen already. So it needs to look like this. Okay. So when you go to root here, it just takes us here. And that's all we need to do. Same with this one here. It takes us here. So that we want to make that happen. So that means that we have to update the controller that we had previously for root, which just gives us that list, to now render the view. So, as I said, we're going to use Handlebars rules to map the actual JSON records into the HTML rows and tables a little bit later, and rows and columns, sorry. And then we're going to style that table using Bootstrap. And then we'll use ExpressJS to render the template when we make that call. Now, one thing that we did have, we saw that we had some search bars. And I mentioned this earlier, we have a live search. That's fine. It works with the table. We also, at the bottom of our app, we have this search facility here that allows us to search the database. Now that means that we need to actually have our additional roots and controllers in order to make that happen. So we're going to add 2 more roots to the RESTful API, and specifically for use in this app. And it'll be useful a little bit later to do some searching as well. We're going to have one called quotation that takes a string as a parameter, and one called author that takes a string as a parameter, and this parameter S is just a search string, and then we're going to use that to update our controllers and roots, and allows us then to be able to attach those particular API functionality to the app that we had. Okay, again, so there's some small changes to the roots file, and our roots file is quotation.roots.js, and again, we're just labeling with the user interface addition. So let's have a look at our quotation.roots.js file, and you'll see I've made a note here. Okay, so there's not actual addition per se, but we are going to update the quotations.root controller for this particular front end. So it makes a difference when we actually access the root now using Insomnia or anywhere or our browser. We will get the interface app that we've seen already. So let's scroll down to the end of this. So I added in 2 more additions, the quotation and the author search roots. And that means then we have to have 2 more controllers, a search quotation controller and a search order controller. You can call them whatever you like, it doesn't matter, okay? And so now we need to then, so I have them in my file. You can see if I go back to my file, I have them here, okay? And we also needed to make some additions to the actual controllers. So this is the controllers for matching a search on a quote field. Here's our updated route, and here's for matching on the other field. So this is our quotation of controllers. They're set up and they're running already. So here's the code. I suppose this is the important bit in here, because this part here tells us to, when we make a search for control, we make a search and we're searching on everything here, okay, then we're going to return the data rendered via the view that we've created with Handlebars, and we're going to pass the quotations that are found as part of our normal search, and we know about this already, we've seen it. We're going to pass it to the view as results. Okay, so it'll be this results object that the view handler will be able to manipulate to extract the data and style it and position it appropriately. Okay, so for the quotations that match on the string, on the quote field, we pull out the string. We've seen how to do this. It's a parameter that needs to be passed. And we're, this is just a logging file here that I have, a logging line of code here. And again, we're going to render the view, but we're going to search it first. So this is the exact same as we did previously up here, but what's happening now is that we're just matching a search on quotation with the find for MongoDB via Mongoose, of course, here, on a regular expression. We're ignoring the case here, so anything that matches it'll be fine. And that just searches it on the quotation field within the quotations collection, and then this one here matches the author field in the quotations collection. And really that's it in terms of the updates to the code for the controllers. That's not too bad, okay? So what's important, I guess, is that when we render the quotations view, we use that, and we can specify the data that's passed, as I said already, that is extracted in our API in this quotations field here, our variable, and then we're going to actually pass it to the template as results. Okay, so then the handler will need the search results object for all the data that's there. So that's everything that's required. And again, as I mentioned, we can test this just to be sure it works fine without ever using our API. Sorry, without using the browser. We can test the API for quotation/folder, for example, that would find a JSON list of quotations. In fact, it returns a JSON list, but then it renders it via the template, and we could change that if we wanted a little bit later, and put the functionality for the rendering in the front ender. But we want it to work well and work nice with our app. Again, we can look for a search on normal, and we can get this JSON list that gets rendered using the template as well. As I said, I'm using a regular expression up here, and for the search that ignores the case. You could fix that, and you could add some various easily put in functionality, if you like, if you wish, that could check whether you want to ignore case or not, would say check button or something, but I'm just not working with that. Again, you can check the routes with Insomnia if you wanted. So you can see I've got a search on quotations for people here, and you can see I'm actually getting the full, this is what's returned, and it tells me that I'm searching for quotations of people, and this is within Insomnia, so we can use Insomnia for debugging and working, and of course we can verify this as well by just typing in here. So I'm going to search quotations for the folder here, find this, and it behaves as you would like it to behave. Okay, and here I'm looking for searching on the quotation that has the word people in here, so let's actually make this people. And we get the same results. Okay, so that's fine. That's for something quotation. Of course, we could search for authors here for and we're finding George Orwell and Ian Forster. Okay, so it's not surprising, and we can just filter here, and we find that one for something that has cold. So we can do searching here. We could, of course, look at combining the searches in here if we wanted to do all that sort of stuff as well. But I mean, you can change that functionality if you like yourself. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. It's fine. Okay, so now we can see how we've updated our server, our API, in order to be able to provide that functionality for doing all the search work that we wanted to be able to have a look at. So next step, of course, in the next lesson, is to look at how we can actually make this happen using Handlebars. Thank you for watching.